Your capacity to be able to define who you are will define everything else about your life. If you cannot define who you are, or you cannot even define what your business is, somebody answer to that question. Definition is extremely important. God needed to define everything when he was making the earth. And he called everything by name so that there will be no confusion. Ask the person next to you, who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Right? You know, it's important that you know the answer to that question. Can you answer that question? Write down, who am I? I'm going to be throwing a lot of questions at you, and I hope that you will have the ability to respond to many of those questions today. I said, and I promised for those that were here yesterday, I said I didn't intend this to be a theoretical session. It's going to be very practical. I said it's not what I can teach that is the most important, it's what you can discover. Because what you can discover, nobody can take away from you. Ask the person next to you, I said, who are you?
I'm a catalyst for clarity because I came to understand that people who came in contact with me are people who are, maybe they are confused about who they are or about what their purpose and destiny in life is. So anybody that contacts me has to come into clarity, clear understanding and clear sense of who they are and their purpose for existing.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Ask the person next to you again, do you know who you are? And let me tell you the importance of who you are, just because I'm just starting out with that preamble. Understand this, your sense of identity should align with your true identity. But in some cases, sometimes your sense of identity may be different from your true identity. How many people here have seen Lion King before? Remember Lion King? All right. If you remember that story, Lion King, the principal actor in that movie is who? Simba, okay? And Simba happens to be the son of Mufasa, and Mufasa was the king of Pride Rock. I know that anybody who has a child older than 3 years old that doesn't know Lion King, your child would write you a query. Okay? Now, but listen to this. It's very important. One day, Mufasa tells Simba, his only child, that look, there are parts of this land you don't need to go to. They're very rough. I mean, there are some of those areas that you use in, if you're in Lagos, you will be mentioning some names, some places like Ajegule, you know, like places that are supposedly very rough. I don't know whether you have them in Jos. Okay? But the idea being, hey, those places, be careful. They're not the kind of places that Ajebos go, you know. And to cut the long story short, Simba, because he was curious to know everything he needed to know about the land, decided to call his friend, and they went out there. Now, Mufasa had a brother called Scar. And Scar knew that unless the lineage of Mufasa was destroyed, he will not have access to the throne. So when Scar realized that Simba had come to the place where he was, he organized a stampede that was to take Simba's life out. But somehow, Mufasa got to know about it, and just in the nick of time, Mufasa saved Simba's life, but sacrificed his own. Does that remind you of anybody? Huh? Who? Jesus. Okay, interesting. So he sacrificed his life to save the life of a whole and entire generation. But then, here comes Scar, and he begins to chat with Simba as Simba is standing beside his father's dead body. And he tells Simba, you are the reason why your father is dead. And because you are the reason why your father is dead, you are an outcast. And Simba says, oh, so what do I do now? And he says, run. Run and never return. You remember that? And Simba starts to run. Interestingly, Mufasa wanted to finish him off, but somehow Simba barely made it. Into Scars, he tried to finish him off. But Simba somehow tried to make it onto somewhere called the Land of Nowhere. And when he got to the Land of Nowhere, he met two nobodies by the name of Pumbaa and Timon. And when he got to the Land of Nowhere and he met these guys, interestingly, they started to engage him to try to eat something. They wanted to console him. They said, look, in this land where you have to learn how to make do, you must learn how to survive. And they started to try to feed him, and they offered him maggots, a lion. They offered him maggots. They offered him worms. They offered him insects. They offered him ants. They offered him flies and things like that. Simba was disgusted. A lion eating worms. Unheard of. Then they started to sing to him. It's a trouble-free philosophy. Hakuna Matata. How many people can remember that? And in the course of that song, it showed that Simba had grown. And by the end of the song, Simba was eating the same thing he spat out at the beginning of the song over a passage of time. But this time he was now enjoying it and relishing it and even burping. Because he had gotten used to something that was not designed for him. But that wasn't really where the lesson starts. All of a sudden, a lioness attacks Pumbaa. And this is where the story gets interesting. Simba, in order to save his friend Pumbaa, attacks the lioness. Now you need to recognize something. In the lion kingdom, I don't know if there are any zoologists here, but in the lion kingdom, it is said and noted that lions never attack lionesses. A lioness will attack a lioness, a lion will attack a lion. But a lion will never attack a lioness. But Simba attacked a lioness. Why? Because Simba had forgotten that he was a lion. But in the course of the attack, and as they were roughing it and tumbling all over the place, he recognized that the lioness was his best friend from childhood. And so they begin to discuss. And he says to her, "Oh, look at you." And she says, "Whoa, you are alive." He says, "Well, I might as well be dead." He says, "Your uncle told us that you were dead." He says, "Wait until your mother hears this. You are alive, and that means you are our king." Can you remember that? Did she say you will be our king? She said what? You are our king. Now, if it was true that Simba was the king, when did he become king? I'm sorry? When he was born? No, he wasn't born a king. He was born a prince. When his father died, that was when he became king. Where was he when he became king? In the land of nowhere? Where was he when he became king? In Pride Rock. So listen to this. Simba became king in Pride Rock. But that was his true identity. His uncle, on the other hand, recognized something. That it is as a lion thinketh in his heart that he is. So he worked on Simba's mind and said to Simba, "You are an outcast." The minute Simba accepted that definition of himself, his sense of identity moved away from his true identity.